Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Just wanted to go over a few items from week 2 and talk a little bit about our week 3 to come. We'll start out, let me go back here to week 2 quick. So last week we spoke about strategic planning, we spoke about law and ethics, a little bit about some compliance activity. So hopefully that was, all went well for you there. I didn't hear from anybody, but so we talked in the discussion board about mission, vision, and values, and I think the reason that we talk about that here, and you'll get more on this topic as you learn about strategic planning in both the concepts class, but then also in strategic planning class if you're in our major. The mission, vision, and values are crucial to um, to driving that strategic planning process. So that's why we talk about it here a little bit, just to give you a feel for that aspect. And then in the later classes, you'll look more deeply at mission, vision, and values and how that impacts an organization overall. So good work there. I have not looked at your case studies yet, but if you have not already, and I know I've gotten tons of them, but if you have not already, please make sure that you've sent back to me the self and peer assessment form via email directly to me. The assignments themselves should have gone into the classroom, and I think I've seen the majority of them in there, but the self and peer assessment needs to come directly back to me, so when I'm grading that, I'll be able to review that information. I do want to talk a little bit about the quiz, so we're going to hop over here. There we go. So a few quiz questions. Generally, folks did well on the quiz, but I just wanted to go over a few questions for you, just so you have the adequate information to proceed. So, question number 1: which of the following is not a potential barrier to successful execution of a strategic plan? So, we have several options here. Lack of focus on strategies, strategies that don't align with organizational culture. But our correct answer was not enough strategies to implement. So in some instances, you may only be implementing a single strategy. By having a lack of focus or a strategy that doesn't align to your culture. Like, for example, if you work in a faith-based institution, a Catholic institution, developing a strategy for a family planning clinic probably not going to align with the culture, so it's not going to jump in there and be an adequate option for you. But by having a number of strategies or having no strategy, only one strategy, neither of those impact the way that the plan can be executed. So a large institution may have a strategic plan for everything for the whole institution, or it may just be a strategic plan focusing on implementation of one small area. Maybe you're looking to start a women's health clinic. So that in itself, that may be the only strategy. But even just having one is okay. Having multiple, having one, they're both okay, and both can be executed successfully. But lack of alignment and lack of focus can both impact the execution of a plan. Next question: which of the following is not part of the definition of healthcare malpractice? So remember, that malpractice is negligence that comes specifically from someone that's a professional in the healthcare world. So there are other types of malpractice as well. Obviously, we talked about political malpractice. Did we talk about that in this class? It may have been in the other class. I apologize. I'm running two classes that are talking about law right now at the same time. But there are other types of malpractice. So political malpractice is a good example where people, elected or appointed officials, are negligent, and that is political malpractice. Healthcare malpractice is the same thing. Person in a healthcare profession being careless or reckless in some way, which leads to negligence. Overpayment is not involved, though. So there are issues related to overpayment, but they tend to be fraud and abuse issues and not malpractice issues. So think about malpractice more as clinical decision making, overall decision making by by the professional in the healthcare setting, as opposed to fraud and abuse, which can be outright criminal activity or even just a reckless disregard for the rules and laws that govern payment in the healthcare sector. So important difference there. So our correct answer, which is not a part of the definition of malpractice, overpayment. Next one, what is the role of the manager in the strategic planning process? So as you can see from the bottom line there, the answer is all of these are correct. So they are to monitor their area for market developments, their area of expertise. So if they're the head of radiology, they're going to be staying on top of the market, making sure that your facility is up to snuff with regard to technology, expertise, etc. Provide input to the planning department and senior management. Of course, that's going to be the role of any manager inside or outside the strategic planning process. To monitor and control targeted strategies. So if I'll just use radiology again as an example, let's say that you're implementing some new activities in the radiology department, it's going to be up to the head of that department to monitor those. So it's important that you understand that role. And then to communicate strategies and rationale to staff. Probably one of the biggest complaints of staff in large organizations, be it healthcare or not, is that they don't understand or know why things are going on, or sometimes they don't even know what is going on when it comes to a strategic process, strategic planning overall. So the manager in a department is really responsible for sharing that information with their staff, why they're doing certain things, so they can create that buy-in from the staff level all the way up through the CEO. So all of those four elements are correct. The last one, I think this is the last one. True or false, if an act is legal, it has to be ethical. And this is false. So you might think, well, then why would things be legal if they were unethical? Well, think about ethics. The law is very straightforward. It's somewhat black and white. There's definitely some gray in the law as well, but it's pretty straightforward. This is how things have been set forth. With ethics, it tends to be more of a personal, personal decisions or decisions based on a code of ethics from a professional organization or licensure agency or whatever it happens to be. So for example, across many states in the country, abortion is legal. So you can have an abortion within a certain amount of time of gestation. However, there are many that would say that it's unethical. So, and now it doesn't mean that you can't do that. And obviously, we're seeing in this country right now, kind of a paradigm shift in the way people feel about that. And there's, clearly folks on each side, and you can be on either side that you would like. This is not meant to be a political discussion at all, but there are people that feel that to have an abortion, regardless of the reason, would be unethical. Whereas there are sometimes when that the converse is true as well. So if something is ethical, it may be completely ethical, but not legal. So for example, I may feel that physician-assisted suicide is something that should be available to those with terminal conditions that are reaching the point in their condition where their quality of life will be so bad due to the pain that they're in, that physician-assisted suicide or euthanasia by physician would be allowable. Well, it's not legal in this country for the most part, but there are many that say that's a more ethical approach to terminal illness than just letting someone suffer. So things can be legal and not ethical. Things can be ethical and not legal. So there's definitely some decision making to be had there. And keep in mind that a lot of it is due to the fact that ethics tend to be very personal. So the way I feel about something is not necessarily the way you feel about it, not the way that other faculty in the program feel about it, etc. So keep that in mind. So that's all I've got there. Let's flip back over the classroom here quick. So in week 3, we are making a shift over to a new topic, obviously, and we're a couple days in now at this point. But so we are looking at the role of a patient as a consumer as opposed to just a patient. So think about yourself as a patient, and most of you were not around at this time, but think back, 30, 40 years ago. As a patient, you were a patient. You did what the provider told you to do. You acted upon their recommendations. That was the norm. Insurance covered broad ranges of activity. The insurance coverage was much more comprehensive at that point. And so we just did what the physician told us to do, as opposed to now where the patient is truly a consumer and needs to be an informed consumer. So you need to be able to make decisions based on what your insurance coverage will cost. You need to work with your physicians and understand your treatment plans and question them if you do not understand something or you don't feel that you want that treatment plan, etc. So the role of the patient as a consumer, and then that dovetails well with marketing. So we're going to talk a little bit about marketing in the healthcare setting. Up until about, I'm going to say, mid to late 80s, healthcare marketing was not done. It was considered unethical to try and make folks make decisions based on advertisements. The prevailing thought at that time was you couldn't advertise an AHN or a UPMC like you do a Wendy's or a McDonald's, and that was the prevailing sentiment, that healthcare people were referred to healthcare agencies based on the need of what type of care they needed, etc. Obviously, for those of you that are in the Pittsburgh metro area, you know that marketing in this area is very strong, mainly due to the ongoing. It's not really so much of a battle anymore, but it's still a battle for ground with regard to patient activity. So you see the battle between AHN and UPMC, but then also some of the other, like St. Clair. I'm trying to think of what, Ohio Valley Hospital, Heritage Valley, like all of these other different hospitals that are out there. You don't see their stuff quite as much because they're smaller organizations, but lots of, all you have to do is drive down the Parkway or drive down any one of the highways, and every other billboard will be a healthcare organization. So that's kind of an oddity. It's not like that everywhere in the country. Everywhere is doing and getting more involved in marketing, but it's very aggressive here, and that comes to the battle for turf with the two major organizations here in the Pittsburgh metro area. So we'll talk a little bit about that. That's what our discussion is about this week. So choose a marketing piece. If you're able to take a picture of it, if it's a billboard, or if you're able to just share a link to it, if it's something online or a video for a commercial, share that in the board. It'll be really helpful. And then we'll talk about it. And then I also want, when you're doing your peer responses, look at what they've chosen for their marketing piece and give it the same approach that you have done for your own. Because everyone, like I just said, ethics is very much a personal thing. You may see ethical concerns with a piece that somebody else doesn't. It doesn't mean either one of you is right or wrong, because ethics are based on our own personal beliefs a lot of the time, but a good way to get you into that devil's advocate way of thinking. We also have a reflection paper this week, 2 to 3 pages, talking about the focus on patient-centered care in relation to the IOM report, Crossing Quality Chasm. So that gave us more insight into the fact that we were not providing great quality care in this country, and by putting the patient at the center of our care, that would help to create that continuity and improve quality of care overall. And then obviously we have a quiz as well. So that's all I've got for you. Please let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'll look forward to talking to folks in the discussion board this week, and that's it. So thanks so much.